Hello, this is the Street Side Podcast with Sean and
Alessandra.
today we will be talking about mass shootings and how they have increased. Through my years, I've heard many people say that putting guns into more people's hands would stop mass shootings and school shootings. How do you feel about that?
It's a very not so black and white answer. I mean, sure, in theory, more guns into hands of people who are legally good would they could stop some bad guy with a gun, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, who are we to decide who has good morals and who doesn't have good morals?
Yeah, no, I can see that. So it's just all a question of who is the morally correct person and who to trust. Well, we would never know the answer to that.
Yeah, it should be based more on do you meet the requirements of owning a lethal weapon? Mentally capable of handling that sort of power. I mean, you at the pull of a trigger, you could end someone's life, as we've seen multiple times throughout just this year alone.
Not just someone's, but also a kindergartner's.
Kids are being, schools are targeted. In the past couple of years, we've had about, I want to say since 2018, we've had about 160 school shootings where at least one person was killed. So that's not even including shootings where a firearm was brought into the school and they potentially threatened someone, but there was no physical injuries or deaths. And I don't know, for the U.S. to be such a country that is looked up to by the entire world, this is a very third world type of problem. Why are we having so many people die due to something that we can fix or prevent or at least lessen a little bit? I mean, just in the past month, I believe Florida passed a new law was put into place that actually lifted restrictions of people being able to carry open carry guns in a grocery store and just out at a park with kids. They don't even have to have a permit for that anymore. And the governor, DeSantis, he claims that the reason why that he lifted any restrictions on it is because as a U.S. citizen, we should not be restricted on our amendment rights.
Weren't those rights also written 300 years ago?
Exactly.
When it took an hour to reload a weapon?
Exactly. Our founding fathers knew that times would change. That's why they built our Constitution the way they did. They wanted us to edit it as times changed and progressed.
I don't know if they think that they'd progress to this point where you could have a gun that holds 30 bullets that could wipe out an entire classroom within seconds.
It's okay to change the Constitution and to change written laws because sometimes we just don't need them anymore. I mean, a lot of people want to argue that they don't want to give up their guns because it's their right, and without guns, the U.S. loses such a huge part of their economy, which is true. I mean, $21 billion are made up on just the gun industry, but are those $21 billion over the course of decades worth the 100 deaths that we have had due to shootings in the last 5 years? Not even too long ago, there was a story on April 23rd. It was just a week before our prom, which we're high school seniors, obviously. April 23rd, there was a prom after party in Texas, of all places, where it was like a rented mansion, and they had over 300 people there. They had no control over who went in and who went out, right? Because they all trusted each other, all there to have a good time. But it just takes one person, one mentally unstable person who has access to a firearm to come in and shoot 11 people, which is what happened that night. Luckily, none of them like had any fatal injuries, but still, that's not something that you want to think about. I know when I heard it, I told you about it, and it was scary. It's like, well, someone could, like, as like seniors who were going to go to prom in less than a week, that's so scary to even consider the fact that we could run into something like that. Someone could just bring a gun and end their lives just like that.
Yeah, and to think about the fact that the 2 times that we visited Chicago together to just go have a fun time, eat some food, go ice skating. We heard multiple gunshots both times just to figure out that some person got shot not too far away from us.
Yeah, I remember specifically the first time. It was, I think, December 2021. We were by the ribbon and we were just walking, and then all of a sudden we hear gunshots and people just start running, and I remember being so terrified. I mean, that's something that I never really had to experience firsthand, and I wasn't really expecting that. I mean, you know, Chicago comes with a reputation, but you never really expect it to happen until it does, and now it's like something that I genuinely think about when I'm going somewhere that's going to be like highly populated.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes deeper than just like school shootings, like mass murders. I mean, it also comes down to like people using those guns for like their personal gain. You know, on May 2nd of this year, there was an individual who actually killed their ex-wife and 3 of their children due to some conflicts that he was having with his ex. And he tried to flee from the scene, and I mean, it's such a fresh story. We're not really sure where he got the gun, but I mean, he had like years of accusations of being a domestic abuser. So it's like, why on earth should this man have access to a firearm, especially after a divorce like that?
And a red flag that big.
Honestly, like, I'm surprised that like it was never brought up. Hey, this guy has shown aggression towards this woman who now they're no longer on good terms. I mean, they're divorced. Nobody thought about her safety. I'm sure she wasn't the first time that she felt unsafe with them.
I mean, to
And-
think about the fact that this man still managed to get a firearm with those accusations. It's just a crazy, flawed system that we still, for some reason, have.
I feel like one of the biggest problems that we have is just not being strict enough. I mean, I don't know any specific examples, but I know in certain European countries, like, you have to be like certified, like, and background checked a million times to even get a hold of a weapon, and that's not including bullets. Like, you have to go into more training to actually own bullets, and even then you're not even allowed to carry them outside your home.
I have more on that. In Japan, I believe, you have to renew your license to carry a weapon every 3 years, take the class again every 3 years, and whenever you want to buy more ammunition, it's stamped, and you have to buy it from the police, and they have to approve everything.
I understand that's tedious. I mean, who wants to do that every 3 years? But these are lives that we're talking about. Like, I'm sorry that you have to take a day out of your life to renew your license, but you're the one that wants the gun. A gun is not a necessity, it is a want. And if you want to execute your right to own a gun, sure, but you have to go through the process. Believe it or not everybody is in the state of mind to have a firearm.
And this shows what how full our prisons are.
People still argue that mass shootings aren't worth our time right now, that we have greater issues to be worried about. But the fact that 20% of all mass shootings have happened in just the 5 years alone, last 5 years, that's
What issues are bigger than that?
it's unacceptable. And a lot of, I know DeSantis again, Floridian governor, he doesn't want to create any more restrictions on guns. due to him believing that there should be no restrictions on amendments. He had previously mentioned in a different interview how if gun laws are so effective, then how come like those European countries still have gun shootings? It's like just because gun laws don't eliminate all gun violence, they're not worth implementing. And he agreed to that statement. He agreed that if gun laws or restrictions don't eliminate all gun violence, then they're not worth keeping around. Those 112 people who have died since 2018, their lives aren't worth all that much to DeSantis because, it's only a couple. It's only a few a year. It's like it should be none. It should be very little. Why are we just glossing over this?
It's because it's not him. It's because he still feels safe in his home. It's a very luxurious home. If he was put in a situation where he was a part of a mass shooting, I'm pretty sure his opinion on that would very quickly change on whether everyone should be able to own a gun. Maybe he'd actually think straight and implement far more gun safety laws and regulations and make it far harder to get a gun.
Let's completely forget about restrictions, right, on who can have a gun. Let's talk about what kinds of guns we're allowed to have. I mean, I'm not up to date with my gun lingo. I know you are, Sean. So, I mean, give us a little insight on allowed to own semi-automatic weapons.
Because they continuously argue that they would use those on hunting, when in reality you don't need one of those, especially if you live in the suburbs. Most of those people don't go hunting anyways. They just have it to have it.
I understand you wanting to keep a gun in your home for emergencies, right? What if someone breaks in? But there are other you can take other precautions to prevent that.
A handgun would suffice. You
Why
don't
do you
need a
need
semi-automatic rifle to protect yourself when a handgun would just simply suffice, especially for your home. You wouldn't even need to take it outside.
It was honestly heartbreaking. Recently, I heard one of our mutuals say that they would just light them up for even stepping inside their house because, it's their right. But how sick do you have to be to think that alone should tell you should not have a gun if you think that you are allowed to just, quote, light anyone up for stepping on your property. Yes, you have the right to protect your property, but there is a line. And one single shot to the leg, I mean, I don't really know a lot about handguns, but you can still fire a couple bullets within a couple seconds, right?
It's a lot harder.
It's harder, but guess what? You have to go through training anyway, so...
Plus, there are illegal modifications that you could buy that could make your handgun fully automatic.
You can still easily shoot your perpetrator multiple times within 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Right or not?
Yes.
Then why would someone need an automatic weapon just in all? Why do you need to shoot them 30 different times?
Because I think it's cool. It's an American thing to do.
So there is no morally correct reasoning behind having a semi-automatic weapon, let alone a fully automatic weapon. I do believe that those are not legal to own, right, by any civilians?
Which ones?
Fully automatic weapons?
Sadly, it is illegal to own a fully automatic weapon. It's just you actually have to go through an entire process to get a license to own one of those.
I did not know that. Thank you, Shauna. I mean, that's ridiculous. You don't need one. I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't. It's just my personal opinion.
I agree with you completely, Alessandra.
I think we covered a lot. It was really nice talking to you, Sean. It was nice having an audience today. Any final thoughts?
No.
No? Okay. I think we're just gonna call it a day then. Thank you for listening, guys. I'm Alessandra, and I'm with
Sean.
and we'll catch you next time.